Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's me, Teri Hunter, on my YouTube channel with messages from your angels for traversing the transits. I'm just going to give it a minute to see if anybody's out there ready to traverse the transits. Hello. Hi out there. Okay. We have a lot to talk about today. The nodes have shifted. And for those of you that, good morning, Juan. Good to see you. For those of you that have been watching me for a while, you know that I'm very much about the moon being as important as our ascendant. When we look at what's happening with ourselves in astrology. Good morning, Jules. Good morning, Michelle. So we have the moon nodes have shifted into the Taurus Scorpio axis. Good morning, Eurydice. It's good to see you. And I want to say this happens once every 19 years. Hi, Stephen. Hi, Small. And I was thinking about what happened to me 19 years ago. And I was thinking a lot about the axis of Scorpio and Taurus and the idea that, well, let me back up a second. Let me kind of do the business at hand first. Okay, because you know what? Now that I'm on my channel, people who are watching may not know who and what I am and what I do. So let me back up really quick. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, which means I work with the angelic realm, not just for predicting your life, but for helping you maneuver your life, teaching you the laws of the universe and how they can be applied. And as you apply them, you will see your abundance grow and harmony grow within you, regardless of world dynamics. So here on Sunday mornings, what I do is I use astrology as sort of the landscape of what we're going to walk through. And then I go through each one of the signs and I get angelic advice for how to traverse those dynamics. So I think this nodal axis is super important because Taurus naturally rules the second house. That rules what we put in our mouth. Okay, people will initially go straight to food, but there's other things we put in our mouth, drink and medications as well. So it rules food, it rules medications, it rules the physical body in some ways because we are subject to what goes through the body and how that affects our everyday experience. So then we have Scorpio. And the other thing I want to say about Taurus is about you know how you're making your money. It's using your skills to make your money to provide your security. And this is just kind of a little bit of a part of Taurus. And I'm going to talk more about it because I think this is very exciting and super important. Because Scorpio rules other people's money and it rules power. And how do people have power over us? Because when they give us something or when we're dependent on them for something, that's how they have power. Not everybody is a billionaire or even a millionaire, and yet they assert power over us. So I think as we watch the South Node traverse Scorpio, you're going to see how am I giving my power away and what am I pretending not to know about myself and my ability to create. So for you, those of you that have known me on the other channel, this last transit between Venus going retrograde in Capricorn made me look back at how I have pretended that I needed someone else who was more powerful than I to help me move along. And I looked back 19 years when the nodes had gone through the Taurus Scorpio axis in the same way. So the North Node was in Taurus and the South Node was in Scorpio. At that time, I moved to North Carolina to be with my friend and to open a spiritual bookstore in the Bible Belt. Now, I wasn't very bright back then, and the Bible Belt was just a beautiful term to me. I never really knew what that meant. And as I went through, and because, the South Node, I'm talking as if you guys know what I'm talking about. The South Node is where the toxicity is released. It is what we're used to. It represents that in past lives. And it is a place of release. okay? And some people will say ego release, but I think that's edging God out. So we release edging God out in the sign of Scorpio as we dig deeper, the detective, about our own motives in our relationships with others in regards to sex, money, and all the things that are ruled by that 8th house. So we have the North Node going into Taurus, and it's going to meet Uranus. Okay, this is why I think this is so powerful, because Uranus is liberating. And the North Node is what we're stretching for. It's what how did I term it? Oh, it's getting out of your comfort zone in what you want. It's actually like, I talk about being in the unknown of your dreams. In some ways, the North Node is that. And this is why these are in complete opposition all the time. They never are, the South Node and the North Node are never out of exact degree. So there is always going to be an opposition between how other people are affecting me and my own sense of self-worth, my own sense of creation, making money, my own sense of value. That's where I'm going. So now, as we go through this next year and a half, this is going to happen for everybody on a personal level. But what's really going to happen, and I think is super crazy, is I think that Taurus North Node is going to wake everyone up from their slumber. And when I say that, I mean people are going to start paying attention to the subliminal messages they're getting, to the subliminal disempowerment of their skills, disempowerment of their wants and desires, and they're going to be more ravenous, more Rahu, more North Node to express themselves. So a lot of astrologers are talking about changes in our food structure, which I agree. We're going to start to do that. But I also think this is going to affect the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. So what we've been going through for the last year and a half, or 2 years really, with the virus is going to illuminate some imbalances and where the South Node has been erosive, and it's going to recalibrate those things, reboot those things. Because I think what's going to happen is that the North Node in the sign of the Bull is going to want everybody to push towards what they want in a way that feels exasperated. So picture the bull in a bullfight, okay, with the horn, the nose, shooting the exasperation in the snot and the and at the same time as the South Node goes through Scorpio, the question isn't going to be, what am I going to lose? It's going to be, where have I given up my power and control to another person because of either money or relationship or my own feeling of being insecure, my own feeling of not being valuable. So I think that's really important. And I want to offer this because 19 years ago, when I moved to North Carolina to open a spiritual bookstore with my friend, it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. I didn't last. I think I moved back to California before. I didn't know about the nodes back then, but I want to offer it this way because it also was the period of time when I found this place in Laguna. And I've been here for the 19 years. That's how I could so easily go back to that period of time and know what was happening. So while the South Node was deconstructing my sense of security, it was actually rebuilding it in a way that I couldn't see. And my job was to be more authentic with driving the bus of that idea, that it's possible. And not that I don't need other people, because I have a Libra North Node. I think it was about cooperation. It was about diplomacy within the message that I bring versus partnering up. So now here it is 19 years later, and I have purported some of the same energies. I have felt that maybe I needed to create partnerships with people who were more powerful than I within this genre so that I could grow. And it's been not fruitless, that's not fair to say, but it hasn't created the partnerships that my Rahu, my North Node, would have wanted. Rather the opposite. It's felt very isolating in some ways within the dynamic. So here I find myself repeating the same thing, but with more awareness. So this is why you're finding me here today, because even though this is a much smaller venue, it is what I believe is what's being asked of me to move forward in my life. And that's what's going to happen with you guys. So what I'm going to do now is do the readings, and I'm going to focus in on where the access is for you. So when I start with Pisces, we're going to see the North Node, Taurus, being in the 3rd house, and we're going to see the South Node in the 9th house. And we're going to look and see how the landscape of what houses it in is going to be relevant for your shift. So because this is how I kind of want to paraphrase it. If Pisces South Node is Scorpio and it's transiting the 9th house, what are you pretending you don't know about your beliefs or about your intelligence, or about, because 9th house rules legal, it rules religion, it rules foreign travel, foreign ideas, big philosophical things. And then the 3rd house rules the everyday mind. Now we put the North Node at Taurus, and it's how can you shift and be more authentic in your everyday life and what you think of, speak of, teach of, and write about in relation to your beliefs. Like where, if you're looking at the North, if your beliefs have been just not serving you, that's where Spirit is saying be egoless, so that you can go back into that place of not having to be perfect, not having to have all the answers, but just be willing and utilizing the Taurus energy of the bull to push past the fear. So you rewrite the ultimate history in your mind through experience, which then recalibrates everything. I hope I'm making sense. Okay. So this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to start with Pisces. And thank you, Juan, for doing the timestamp so that those of you who are used to starting at Aries can just click on that button and go forward. But this is going to be a dynamic this for the next few years that's really going to affect us all. So here's where I'm going. In addition to all our personal lives, because when I think of that South Node in Scorpio, and I think about what I put in my mouth, the North Node in Taurus, it's really making me think about my personal responsibility for my physical experience. And have I given away that because of certain parameters or dynamics, hello, Pluto in Capricorn, that may not be applicable to me? Okay. So I think we're going to see things exposed. I'm going to be very honest with you. I think it's going to be very jarring, to be frank. I saw this History Channel, The Men That Built America, and it was talking about the early 1900s. And it was like J.D. Morgan and I don't know, Vanderbilt. It was a bunch of those big wigs back then. And they're sitting in their little office and they're like, we need to buy us a president. So I'm not saying we're buying presidents, but I'm going to tell you there are big wigs out there somewhere that are making decisions that have nothing to do with our well-being. They have to do with the almighty dollar. And this is what we're going through. This is why 2 years ago, when Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn and Mars all collided and, this virus hit, it happened in a way that couldn't be done by mad cow or bird flu because the stars were not aligned for the transformation. And now the stars are aligned. And I don't want you to be scared of it. I want you to be brave through it, because throughout history, people have thrived when others would have them think they would not thrive. And that's what I think this tribe has to offer. Humanity is allowing yourself to thrive during a time of unsuredness. And if you ask yourself the question, where am I giving my power away? Am I giving my power away to how I'm perceiving things? Because, all right, let's start with Pisces, because that 3rd house in Taurus is speaking to the media to me right now. Like, am I banking on what I've known and heard and learned And now I need to stretch in myself and stretch myself into something that's more individualized. I hope that makes sense. All right, let's start. Pisces, the North Node is going to be in your third house. So this is going to make you extremely excited about your own particular ideas, if you want it to be. I feel like this is where, when we look at the axis, the South Node is going to ask you to be, in some ways, egoless to other people's opinions about what you want to do in the way of your skills, your voice, and how you work that within your neighborhood, your community. So I'm combining the idea of Gemini ruling the third house in general, and Taurus superseding that. So it's the Taurian energy on top of the Gemini energy. So you're going to feel like a need to build. And I want to offer this too, because I really think Magnolia Network has launched. And I feel like this is, again, that Taurian energy coming through, where people are going to want to really get down to grassroots. They're going to want to be more aware of what they're ingesting in every possible way. What are you putting into my body? And as we do that, we're going to see where inadvertently, I don't want to really villainize anything, but inadvertently, when people start to make money at something, they get excited about it, and sometimes the vision gets lost inside the bank account. So I think this is going to be exposed. And Pisces, as this goes through your ninth house, I want to offer this too, because when I lost everything I own was during that period. Okay, so I moved to North Carolina. It didn't work out. It was a terrible mess, and I was so anxious to get home. And I remember when the moving van, the guys were putting things in the moving van, and I looked at my sister and I said, I'm never going to see any of my belongings again. And sure enough, everything was stolen. The moving van went to some truck stop diner, went to get something to eat, and banditos jumped in the truck, drove it off in the desert, pillaged it, and then burned everything. So I found this out in August of 2003. My whole world feels like it's collided. Okay. Everything was bad. And at the same time, I had an influx of love from others, people bringing me blankets and dishes. And I found my apartment inside of Laguna, and I was very intentional. The loss made me extremely intentional about being and planting myself where I wanted to live. And then I went in connection to spirit, and I said, you need to make this happen. You need to bring me the opportunities. You need to figure it out, because I have no idea how to do that. Then I was inspired. Scorpio South Node. Okay. It's this going into that intuitive place, because Scorpio rules the occult. So then I start getting this feeling, talk about that you want to live in Laguna, just talk about it. And then people will bring you opportunities. And that is exactly what ended up happening. And while everything was really there was one part of my life that was completely being released. It was the part of my life where I wasn't following my truth. I wasn't using my own real skills, and I wasn't following my Venusian heart. Okay. So this is where I think it's super important to look at Venus and Taurus, that's why I bring up Venus, in a very round way, because it's oftentimes beauty is not the thing that Venus feels the most excited about. She feels the most excited about being acknowledged for what she brings to the table. Now we have this Pisces in the third house. What are your ideas that you bring to the table? What is it in the way of your ninth house spiritual beliefs that have held you to something that feels more powerful than you? Somebody who has more knowledge than you, but do they? Does schooling really supersede experience? Because, words don't teach, experience teaches. So we can think of an idea and conceptualize it, but until we actually walk through it, we don't know if it's true. This is what's going on for Pisces. So let's see what Spirit has to say. Finally, hours later, I gotta go. Woo! Oh my goodness, I just dropped the cards all over. Hold on, I'll be back. I know my tree is still up. At least I got the balls off of it. I have had no time. Lucky still has to have baths every couple of days. It takes like 2 hours to go through the whole process, and I haven't had any time. So I'm working on getting this stuff down slowly but surely. Okay, Pisces, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And really, really pay attention to your moon in this particular reading, because we're talking about the shifts of the moon's nodes. We're talking about your emotional body, and we're talking, Pisces, about your 3rd house and your 9th house. How the higher concepts that you want to achieve will require you to be egoless to other people's opinions, whether or not you can achieve that. And your job in some ways will be to be kind of bullish about pushing yourself towards using your skills and trusting your skills versus trusting your skills in comparison to somebody else. Oh. All right. Oh, Small, I love you. Thank you so much for saying that. Oh my goodness. I feel like it's almost a month later. Okay, Pisces. Our first angel is Rochelle. As you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, prosperity is coming. Akasha is the teacher. Spiritual teacher Desiree is asking you to look into conditions, and the final is Isaiah, looking for new opportunities. So this next year and a half, I think the constant question will be for those of you that are Pisces, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. In your everyday life, are you following your truth? Are you giving life even to the idea that you can live that and prosper and do well? Because if you ask other people, the first answer will be no, or it will be, well, how? How are you going to do that? And if you know the laws of the universe, you know that the how is never the first question. It's the being. What do I believe about the situation? So as Pisces is independent in what they believe and trust their heart, I believe that Akasha is giving you inspiration. And I want to offer it this way, because this is the inspiration, the fire fairy, optimism. It's also about feeling and knowing that if you are indeed a spiritual teacher, do you have to teach like everybody else? Or do you have the privilege of teaching from your own experience in which others can relate to? Because Desiree in the angel's advice is saying that, are you coming from love or are you coming from fear? The thing that I realize, and I mean, I made some drastic, unexpected changes in the last few weeks, and while they weren't completely unexpected, they were really deep in my own reflection and what prices I was willing to pay, meaning how much fear did I have that I should be in one place instead of feeling excited about moving into my own little pond. I was getting burnt out, feeling the grind of it. And I never want to feel grind about my own passions. And I feel like this is super important because this is affecting Pisces. You know, you've got to reestablish your passion, because instead of doing your passion like other people do it, your job is to allow for your own independent way of thinking, because you will build a network. Hi, Sarah. It's good to see you. This is the network, and here's the new beginnings, and it's time to give life to those new beginnings. So now we talk about we're in a Mercury retrograde, right? And I think Venus has gone forward. She's going to creep towards Pluto, and Mars is going to be there. This is like in a few weeks from now. This is a pivotal time, everybody, because I'm super scared for people who are a little unconscious and in very challenging relationships, because it could get very physical. But if you're aware and if you're intentional, you're willing to follow your heart and be like, my heart doesn't know how, but my heart knows that that's what it wants. And if it wants that, not only do I have to be independent and have healthy boundaries around others, I also know there's 9 lives at least, because it's time for me to take action. As a Pisces, you are in some ways a natural spiritual teacher. And now is a time to come from love instead of fear, and to give birth to new ideas that you can and will indeed build a network. All right, let's go on to our Aquariuses. This is going to happen for you in your 4th and 10th house, which I think is super interesting because in the natural, that's like the top and the bottom. So it's like this, it's polarizing in and of itself about feeling like you're holding everything up on one level and then being seen by everybody and scrupulized in another way. So let's see how that plays out. Because we know Aquarius by nature is individualistic. It can be rebellious. We know it rules, Uranus rules it. And we know that the North Node and Uranus are going to have a very, very titillating and electrifying and lightning conversation in not such a short period of time. I mean, I didn't actually calculate when they will be conjunct, but as this happens, it's going to be that one of those expect the unexpected, and the unexpected, no matter how much you think it, it's still going to be shocking. But it's necessary. Hi, just call me C. Hi, Cosmic Jerry. Hi, I don't know. La Viuda Negra. I hope I said that right. All right, here we go. Hi, Dusk. Here we go. On to our Aquarius' rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Again, the nodal structure and change. The North Node is going to be Taurus, your 4th house, and Scorpio, your 10th house. So 10th house naturally rules career. And I think what this is going to ask Aquarius is, where are you giving your power to others, or their perception of you, or your where are you overly accommodating in your professional relationships where you are not truly being seen for your talents? Because again, we have to remember that these are not pieces of the pie that go like this. Each one is part of the hero's journey and the human as they walk through these different environments that gives them the choices. So sometimes we have to be brave about our choices and not think, is my talent, is my skill, is how I'm treating my body really part of what other people, because this may have, with the 4th house being your North Node, you may be very, very ravenous about protecting home and hearth. And you may be very, in some ways, vocal. Here we've got, your ruling planet, the North Node, and all meeting in Taurus. It feels very revolutionary to me. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if a few Aquariuses just picked up and moved. I honestly just were like, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to live in where there's more greenery, or I'm going to live near something more. And I know it doesn't seem like Aquarius because Aquarius is sort of star driven. We think of it as space, but I think there's the potential that Aquarius may contemplate starting to move somewhere they can see the stars again and start to feel like they are communing with their people out there in the cosmos. I'm not kidding. Because in the egolessness of the South Node, I really don't think this is about, because when I hear other people say it, I feel like I'm supposed to give up what my wants for what another human wants. And when I went into meditation, they're like, no, you have to not care what the other human wants. You have to be different, be trusting, be brave. Okay, Aquarius, our first angel is Athena. It's safe for you to lovingly assert yourself. The next is Opal. The third is Archangel Uriel. And the final is Ray. And I think a lot, too, that some of the world changes, some of the parameter changes, which I think are absolutely important, because we've had, we are operating under systems of just habit, tradition. So as those break up a little bit, and I think that we saw that a lot with our schooling and our kids and education, I think we're going to start to teach things that are more applicable to everyday life skills that don't have to do with work or labor, but have to do with intention. So for our Aquariuses, Athena is saying it's safe for you to lovingly assert yourself. And then we have the water fairy. Opal is being joined by the raven. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the birth and the rebirth card. And Ray is being joined by the forgiveness card. So at the beginning of the broadcast, I talked about how when the nodal structure was 19 years ago, when we were under the same nodal structure, North Node, Taurus, South Node, Scorpio, I lost everything, all my possessions. And well, at the time, for the first 2-3 years after it happened, it was the worst period. The backside of that was amazing. And it really ripped away a lot of illusions. And one of the craziest illusions was my intuition. I had all these crystals and different card decks and all this, and I had the books, and I was always going to look at the books. And I didn't have the books anymore. And I started to really assert myself towards my intuition. Aha, now you get where I'm going. It's time for Aquarius to stop thinking that you're all air, because you're very, very intuitive. Each human is intuitive because your soul is an intuitive energy, and it's diverse beyond your ability to comprehend. So now I think that South Node is asking you to step into that Cancerian energy and really assert yourself in a bigger way, in a way that you think is more obvious, not to the outside world. I know the 10th house is normally very obvious, but I think it's supposed to be obvious to you, because Opal talks about having your children be safe on heaven and earth. I think this is you. I think that this is really a magical timing that you've been, into the underworld of your own existence. Saturn's been in your house for quite a while. And I think this is time to accept your differences and start to celebrate them in a way that allows all of us to celebrate our differences and your uniqueness, because it is absolutely a time when we're going into the age of Aquarius, where we absolutely will start to revere each other for our talents, our integrities, our character, and our possessions and our material wealth will not always be the thing that gives us so much power and control. So here you have Archangel Uriel representing frustration and allowing your frustration to rebirth you. When I lost everything I own, I found out on August 11th, 2003. And I'll tell you, it was like the most crazy phone call. My whole mind went like into some weird subliminal, like, what are you saying? What are you saying? And it was weird because a couple things Spirit had saved me. Spirit had, before this all happened, I was sitting in the apartment in North Carolina, and I was looking up at the ceiling, and there were these huge fire sprinklers. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even have to burn my apartment down for someone else could like start a fire next door, and these things are going to shoot off and ruin all my stuff. So the next day I went and got renter's insurance. Okay. Never in my life. I don't have renter's insurance now, but never in my life had I gotten renter's insurance. Scorpio South Node. Other people's money, insurance, taxes. If I hadn't been inspired to get that renter's insurance, when I lost everything I own, I would have had no way to recoup anything. Because I think, and I know this sounds like I'm jawing on, but I think Aquarius, your intuitive body has got to start to take precedence over what everything else, anybody else thinks, and know you're being protected as you walk through this kind of scary. I say scary because when I look at the skull, I feel like in order for the magic to rise, there's a bit of rebellion that has to take place. And I have to understand that in order to really own what I want, because in the final position is the forgiveness card. Most of you have watched me before, so you know this is where I understand that nasty little chapter I had to go through. It now makes perfect sense. Oh, because if I hadn't lost everything I own, I never would have fit into this apartment in Laguna Beach. So now there's Ray. Ray is the connection to the angelic realm, the connection to your guides, to your teams, as above, so below. And this is what you start getting. So as this fixed air sign, you start to stick in, because this is also a fixed access, right? So as you start to really go, okay, what if in this moment, rather wondering if I'm right or I'm wrong, I'm just willing to take action on this inspiration that Spirit is giving me. And just to be sure, I'm going to ask them to give me confirmation, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And if I see those messages, then I'm going to allow that to be my light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm going to start to follow it, because I think this is where you're going to actually feel super empowered. And I want to offer this too, because I think that the North Node in the 4th house will also allow you to feel a stronger sense of home and family and connection, because that's what the 4th house naturally represents. Okay. And I want to say this too, because at the same time, while all this is happening, we are absolutely going to see information and things coming out that are going to be, we're going to be a little disillusioned by some things. We're going to think that, we've been trained to think certain professions have our back, and some of them don't. So this is also part of the whole dynamic of allowing yourself to plant your home where you want it to be, Aquarius. All right, let's go on to Capricorn. This is going to be in your North Node is your 5th house, and South Node is your 11th house. I wrote all these down because didn't want to get mixed up. Okay, here we go. Capricorn. All right, so as I start shuffling, I can't help but think, Capricorn has Pluto. Pluto is at 26, 27 degrees and any minute now. And we're going to see Venus and Mars taking their turn, having a conversation with Pluto. And pretty soon it's going to be a meeting of the minds. And I want to offer it this way because, again, I'm a little concerned for people who are unconscious and a little bit on the angry side because they're going to act out and react. But those that are conscious can use Mars's highest vibration of pioneering spirit and truth to transform Pluto, their lives, by using their skills. And I want to offer this too, because many of you may think, oh, my skill is I'm an administrator. Oh, my skill is I'm a salesman. Oh, my skill is this. Your skill is being a human who's following their own true north. And I want to offer it this way because I really do think there's going to be so much revolution surrounded by the things we've been putting in our bodies. No offense to Red Bull or Monster or any of those crazy drinks, but I think that they're poison, okay? And I've never, ever liked them. When I was a young girl, there used to be something called Shasta's Cola. It tasted terrible. And even as a young girl, I could hear, I didn't know it was God, but I kind of thought it was, don't drink that stuff. Don't drink Shasta. So I've never been a cola drinker. When I was younger, Spirit said, don't do oleo, which my grandfather, margarine. And it was just little things. So I feel like Capricorn, as you are inspired and these things, you're going to be like, well, I don't know, I doubt myself. This is fear, because Capricorn can do that. I feel like it's like, all right, I'm willing to be experimental. I'm willing to actually, because there's my North Node in the 5th house of creation, of enjoyment, of pleasure. And I've been talking about Capricorn not being the old goat as much, but rather the young goat that's like, okay, let's play. Nah. Because the South Node in the 11th house is really going to ask you to be a little bit egoless about what everybody thinks. And I don't know, do we really care what anybody thinks if you're not happy? That's really what's so important. And think about when you are happy, because you naturally rule leadership. So now you're a leadership for happiness. And just imagine the ripple effect of that. Happy people don't need to take any medications. Happy people actually don't even get fat. Because when they eat, the vibration is different than someone who feels guilty about what they're putting in their mouth. And all of this is Taurus. You remember Shasta Cola? Was it the crappiest stuff ever? I hated that stuff. It was terrible. Ugh. All right, Capricorn. Our first angel is Sonia, the connection to your guides and angels. The second is Ray, yet another connection. Ariel, a third connection. And the final connection is Teresa, where you stop worrying about everybody else's opinion. I'm going to tell you, in the beginning, it's kind of hard to stop worrying about other people's opinions, but I believe that soon people will be inspired by your example. And they will say, I didn't realize that I was just purporting, because you got to remember, Taurus rules history, right? And history repeats itself. And sometimes within a 10-year span, people forget certain things, like that your body, 100 years ago, 10, even 20 years ago, my grandmother used to use all sorts of herbs to heal things. If you burned yourself, someone put aloe vera on it. If you weren't feeling well, ginger ale. ginger, right? So I think we're going to see a huge going back to natural, holistic, no side effects kind of feeling. And I feel like Capricorn is going to be part of the transformation because you are so stoic in some ways that as you change lanes and vibrations, people are going to be like, whoa, well, if that Capricorn can do it, then there must be something more here that I'm not seeing. Because the old kind of darker energy of Capricorn, that control, there's a controlling dynamic to Capricorn as well. Because when you ask someone to do something they don't like to do, whether they like it or not, that's control. So all these things are going to break up. Okay. Capricorn, Sonia is being joined by the Earth Fairy, physical well-being. Ray is being joined by the Truth card. Ariel is being joined by the dog. And Teresa's being joined by the cow. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to straight up say that I think very much this is going to be affecting Capricorn's way of eating, their way of paying attention to how they take care of their bodies. Some people may even be inspired to be a little bit more vocal about it, about what they're doing, because Sonia is your team, your deceased loved ones. Those I couldn't help but think of Betty White. She almost lived to be 100 years old. She was a Capricorn, rules old age. You rule old age as well. And so how do you want to live it? Happily or, all rickety? No, we have viable bodies. So here's the Earth Fairy, really grounding not only your connection to the angelic realm, but your inspirations to what you're putting in your body. Because the truth is coming out. And it's not just your truth. It's the truth of what modern medicine and honestly, what the FDA has approved. It's going to be revamped and revisited, hence the reboot. Okay, because there's things that they're allowing that are actually disempowering. And on a collective level, maybe nothing individually is bad, but when you add it all together, it's not working out. So Capricorn, your connection to the angelic realm is going to continue to illuminate the truth. And I think what you're going to represent here is truly sincerity and sincere. And this is where it's kind of interesting, because if you think of Capricorn being so material, earthbound, and when I say material, I mean not materialistic. I mean wanting to see their leadership, their hard work in the material world. So now, to me, this is about being loyal to yourself. This is about being sincere and being trusting of your connection. It's going to seem much more rooted in the truth of the earthly experience. And as you do that, I think you're very much going to change the way you receive your bounty, but also I think you're going to change what you put in your body. I think it's going to become very, very important to you. And I want to offer it this way because I don't think that it's going to have to be something that is hard for you. I feel like Capricorn, will be an endeavor that actually feels very inspired. It almost feels like when I look at the 11th house and I look at the idea that it rules networks, it rules social media, it rules our friends, it also rules our hopes and our dreams, right? And then we have the 5th house, which is our ability to create. It's like, that's why they say it rules the actor, because I come out and I want to show you my talent. And then I want the audience to applaud me because I also want to invite them in to do the same thing. So this is where I think that Capricorn as the leader is going to stand in their own experience of shifting in a way that maybe people didn't think you could shift. And I want to offer this too, because while this seems very much related to the physical, we go Taurus very much. I also want to say it's about how you feel about yourself. And I think that physical shift is also going to make you feel more alive, more excited. And I don't think it has to do with love. I don't think it has to do with how old you are. So this isn't just for young people, but rather this is for everyone. And I think it's really feels very liberating. And again, here we go. Uranus is going to meet up with that North Node in no time at all. And if any of you have any planets, I've got a lot of planets on that axis. I have my moon in Taurus, And I have Mercury and Neptune in Scorpio and my power of fortune in Scorpio. This time I'm not going to lose my money. No, 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 no. I've been through this once. It's not happening again. I walked into that bankruptcy office. I'll never forget that, in 2003. And I was like, I can't do this. I cannot disempower myself like this. I cannot do it. I cannot pay this long-term price for this short-term problem. And I pulled myself out. All right, here we go. On to our Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stellium. Your North Node, Taurus. North Node is going to be in your 6th house of service and work. And the South Node is going to be in your 12th house. Let's see what they have to say. Natalia, moon in Taurus and Pluto in Scorpio. Wow. So you have the ruler of Scorpio in Scorpio. I want to offer this because I really like Pluto. I know it's not easy, but maybe I'm just getting used to things not being easy. But when I look at Pluto as the planet and it has that huge heart and it's cold, it's ice and it's running up against, there's all this activity. When you look at the science, there's all this activity underneath that heart. It makes so much sense for me to have to be what appears to be heartless to other humans in order for me to fill my heart, which is actually much more of a invitation to those people. So I think it's beautiful. And at the same time, the more conscious you can be about it, the easier Pluto is on you. It's the unconscious people that really hit Pluto feels like a criminal, And I'm not saying he doesn't rule the mafia and all the criminal activity, but anyway. All right, let's go on. Sagittarius, let's see what Spirit has to say for you. North Node, 6th house. I have Venus and Pluto and naturally in the 6th house, and I've always been voracious for my work of service and to be recognized, I think, for it. Okay. Our first angel is Archangel Raphael, the angel of physical healing, and this is in your 6th house. Woohoo! Then we have Fiona. Now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. We have Akasha, the spiritual teacher. And we have Shanti, the angel of peace. I got to say this. I feel like this Taurus North Node is going to just completely change the FDA, at least in America. And I don't know in other countries what you call it, but the equivalent will happen in your countries as well, because we have allowed things without consciousness, because we've given our power away, Scorpio, to others, assuming that they have a sense of integrity that we're going to find wasn't there. Okay. Having Pluto and Venus together, I think, is so transformational for so many things. And some people immediately see domestic violence, but I don't. Oh, yeah, I think crypto right now might not be the best time, but that's absolutely amazing to invest in, is electronic money. All right. Sagittarius, Archangel Raphael is being joined by the Grail Knight. Fiona is being joined by the Frog. Wow. Akasha is being joined by the Deer. And Shanti's being joined by the High Priestess. Scorpio rules the occult, okay? It rules what is not seen. It rules, it's like if Taurus rules the land you plant on, Scorpio rules the water underneath the land. So I want to offer this because when I look at this, I feel very much like it's about the physical body. I feel like it's about feeling more empowered and trusting of the vessel versus the information, because Archangel Raphael is the angel of physical healing, and there's the Grail Knight. And I think the illusions that are going to be, the world is going to hear some very, very startling and unsettling things over the next year and a half about who and what has run the power of the world. And I think as a result of this is going to make Sagittarius feel very, if you think about, you rule philosophy, you rule higher education. So I think you're going to be very inspired, because here we have the Frog, cleaning of house, releasing of emotional baggage. And then we have Fiona asking, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And I think what that is part of the process. I feel as if when I look at the 6th house and the 12th house by nature is a house that's dedicated to quiet. You know, it rules bedrooms, it rules ashrams, it rules hospitals and research labs. And so I feel like in some level, this feels very much as if that South Node in Scorpio is going to allow Sagittarius to represent, how do I want to phrase this? I feel like as if you're inspired to become more knowledgeable about your body, about side effects of things, about the statistics of things and how they're basing the parameters. I feel like you're actually going to end up teaching people through your gentleness and diplomacy. You know, you're ruled by Jupiter, and Sagittarius is one of the most easygoing, I think, signs to be around. It's kind of like Canadians. I've never met a Sagittarius I didn't like. And so I think it's super important that as you honor yourself and you honor your inner knowing, you realize that you're inadvertently teaching others and you are inadvertently bringing more peace into a general environment. And I want to offer it this way because I think the ultimate outcome of this period of nodal structure is going to be, how much do you trust the three elements, the id, the personality or the ego, and the oversoul? And are you working in relation to that? And as you continue to ask that question, you're going to start to feel yourself being of service by your own 12th house personal reflection of where you have disempowered yourself, and and if indeed it has been through your physical body, because the 12th house rules hospitals, you may find yourself starting to shift in that way and realizing that part of the healing process is not just what you put in to hope that your body will course correct, but also the vibration of your believability. It's just so incredibly important. I can't begin to tell you. Okay, let's go on to our Scorpios. This is going to be South Node in your first house. Just as I say that, I almost got this little weird fear bubble, right? Don't be afraid of Scorpio in your first house. You know, I feel like when I look at that, because North Node's in the 7th house, and if we look at it that way, then you really want a rich, savory relationship. And now it's about asking yourself, how deep are you willing to go to expose yourself in, and I don't mean in a way that's giving your power away again, but rather in tandem. You know, sometimes I think Scorpio gets scared of what they know on an intuitive level, and that's why they feel a little bit like they get stingy or they get powerful or overpowering, because they don't want the negative intuitive hit to be true. So they push sometimes. And I think that this is really feels a little bit like honoring that intuition, so that if indeed for some reason what you are endeavoring in the way of partnerships isn't aligned to your truth, you can just move on. Okay, we're talking about the nodal axis and the shift from Gemini and Sagittarius to Scorpio and Taurus. Just in case you just came in, that's the focus this week. And we are on Scorpio. South Node is going to be in your first house. Now, again, I really want to emphasize, you know, when we talk about the release of toxins through the South Node, we talk about a sense of loss through the South Node. We talk about, again, the egolessness. The loss is the loss of the illusion. Because oftentimes, Scorpio, if you look at it, you'll have said to somebody, if he would just make that decision, we could be so happy. Or if she would just do this, we could be so happy. But they're not doing that. So what are you pretending not to know? Because I feel like this is really about representing the beauty of 7th house Scorpio, meaning that that I kind of think of Sting and his wife Trudy, because there was a period of time when their intimacy was kind of in the public eye, and they were very much into this Kama Sutra type thing. And it felt very, at least from my perception, it felt like a lot of true intimacy, because it wasn't just about two bodies banging together, but yet intending something throughout the experience. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. All right. Because I also want to offer this, Scorpio, first house, South Node, 7th house partnerships. I think you also, with Pluto being your ruling planet, have an opportunity to represent through experience, others experiencing you, honoring the truth. That's being egoless about what you want. And then being willing to sever what doesn't work, let it drip out and flush down. And then as you connect to a more authentic contract or partnership, because it can also be work, then this is really representing what people really want in relationship. I don't believe that people want to be dependent upon another. I don't believe that they want the roles of, I bring home the bacon and you fry it up in a pan. I think I want to bring home some bacon, and then you bring home Canadian bacon, and then you fry it up, and maybe I'll bake some, and it's this exchange. That's what we're wanting. We're wanting people to stoke our dreams, not expect something from us. And that's why I think Scorpio is so powerful, and having the South Node go through this house. Okay, let's see what the angels have to say. If Pluto is in your first house, naturally, your whole life is about transformation. It's about digging down to the deeper truth of who you are, not lying to yourself. Okay. Our first angel is Archangel Raphael. I swear to you, I'm telling you, I feel like food is a big deal. Food and whatever you put in your mouth. I'm afraid of keywords lately, I'll tell you. But if you're popping too much Advil, you're popping too much Claritin, you're popping too much this or that, oh boy, don't do that anymore. All right. So Scorpio. First angel is Archangel Raphael. The second is Maya of schooling and education. Seraphina is about happy families. And Fiona is saying, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be willing to receive. That is a very important dynamic, because the human gets so used to striving for their happiness that sometimes when their happiness comes, they are unable to receive it because they are in some sort of post-traumatic stress syndrome. I know that lately, one of my prayers to Spirit is, thank you for helping me to connect to my happiness and not constantly go back into my history of what wasn't or what didn't or who done me wrong. And Janine, your word receptivity is what triggered that thought, because we need to be able to receive. Okay, Archangel Raphael for our Scorpios is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Maya is being joined by Merlin. Seraphina is being joined by the restriction card, and Fiona is being joined by the Goblin. Okay, so this is a little bit interesting, because the shadow side of Scorpio is when they don't get happy, sometimes they get pushy, And I'm going to say it this way, because Archangel Raphael is offering a healing. And then there's the Lady of the Lake. And she's always this fight between my emotional body, and I see this storm at her feet. I see her mind going crazy with the hair and the wind blowing. And there's Excalibur, the sword of truth, which she holds effortlessly in the midst of the storm. And I think that's what Pluto is. I've talked a lot about how transiting Pluto has affected my whole life, my whole chart, every single one of my planets, except for my moon. That's the one that I don't think Pluto will make in this lifetime, but it's the only one. So somewhere when I'm courageous enough and I dig down to my truth, because that is what this nodal access is all about. And you being part of this is super, super important for you to dig down to your deeper truth, and not the truth that you think you can get in relation to another person. Because what you're really learning about, because Maya is the angel of schooling and education, is about alchemy. I don't even think this is justice or balance, but it's about creating what you really want. Because sometimes as a fixed sign, you may put your sights on something and then get stubborn about making it happen. And that dynamic isn't actually have the ingredients to give you what you want. Because I think somewhere in this next year and a half, you're going to realize that you've been pursuing something or been staying in something that is actually feeling restrictive. Seraphina represents happy families. And if Scorpio wants to truly be happy in their family, there's a little bit about trusting an alchemy of a deeper truth. Because Fiona is saying, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. But will you only receive if your ego gets what it wants? Because let's put it this way. Okay, let's say that you like dark chocolate and you can't find dark chocolate right now. There seems to be a shortage of dark chocolate. So you get some milk chocolate. You get used to the milk chocolate, but you don't really like it. But you still can't find the dark chocolate. So you're not sure you're ever going to get it again. You're going to live with milk chocolate for the rest of your life? Because that's what I think is happening. The South Node in the first house is asking you to actually be egoless about what you want, not the source with which you're getting it. I hope that made sense. Because I think this has to do with how you're viewing partnerships. So let me be kind of more clear. I think on some level that what Scorpio is being asked is to have the courage to allow for a healing. And the healing will come through an epiphany and the willingness to have the courage to let the epiphany come through. Because I believe that you really want something more in your relationships than what you're getting. And I think that part of the problem is your fear. You're getting stubborn somewhere. And so Spirit's really asking you to stop and really look at things and ask yourself if you're edging God out. One of the things that was so powerful me during my Pluto, some of my Pluto transits, and this one most recently, is what am I pretending not to know? And maybe one of the things I'm pretending not to know is that people find value in my work, not just who I'm attached to. So let's go on to our Libras. Otherwise, this broadcast is going to be 3 hours long, and I don't want that to happen. I'm trying to keep it to an hour and a half, but these times there's so much to talk about, so much to say. All right, let's go on to our Libras. This is going to happen in your 8th and 2nd house. So, North Node Taurus, 8th house. You know, this really speaks to me for Libra, and I'm a Libra sun, but for Libra rising and Libra moon, it really does speak to balance in partnership. Again, because I think of the 8th house as other people's money, the 2nd house is my money, and I have to be egoless in some respects. If I look at Scorpio as my 2nd house, the egoless part is not, I hope I'm being clear, because it's really, it's this kind of thing where I have to try to be me first. I have to implement my skills, and I have to kind of not care if you agree with them. When I was a little girl, I used to sing all the time. My moon is in the 2nd house of Taurus, and I was in a singing group. I performed, and then my absentee father showed up one time, and he sat there like this. And then he did not say one nice thing about me. And I never sang again after that. I quit everything, because in my mind's eye, my father was something I was stretching for his love. I wanted his love. And he didn't approve of my singing, or whatever he thought. I don't really know. And in his presence, I could never get any air. So when he's not around, I sing great and I'm on pitch. I'm not Whitney Houston or anything, but I'm okay. I'm good enough for the church choir. So this is my point, is that other people will mess with our happiness. And I don't think Libra's supposed to do that anymore. I know, it was very sad. It was very sad. And sometimes I would go to karaoke and drink a little bit, and people would be like, "You're good, you can sing." And I'm like, "Yeah, I need tequila shots." It's just, my family was not supportive. It was like everybody was so damn competitive, Anyway, next lifetime, I'm going to be a singer and a dancer in a vaudeville show. All right, here we go, Libra. North Node, 8th house, Taurus. Yes, the timing is right for this new venture. Ray is our connection to the angelic realm. There's Ariel again. And here's Athena. It's safe for you to lovingly assert yourself. I think the greatest thing about being a human is singing and dancing. I think it's why TikTok is so popular, with everybody like kind of doing these little dances and these challenges. It's the truth of who we are. It's the truth of why we come here. Is for that expression and is for that. We don't have legs in spirit. We don't have arms. We don't have the body to be able to use as the Taurian implement of our structure. I don't know if he was a narcissist. I kind of have to say that my dad he just wasn't a leader. He had Neptune next to his sun. I'm a Aries rising. I got Mars next to my sun. We just didn't mix. I'm a leader and he was a partier. Okay, Isabella, Libra. Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right for this love. And I'm going to tell you, I think it's self-love. I think it has to do with that North Node in Taurus, transforming how you perceive yourself in relation to others, that you stop disempowering yourself. Sometimes Libra can be considered indecisive. And then the shadow side is being resentful, like I'm giving to you. And then, when are you giving back? And that's not how it plays out. Because yes, the timing is right for you to love yourself. And I say that because here's Athena in the final position. But Ray is being joined by the fire fairy, creative action and optimism. I always think this is passion and to connect with spirit, to really give yourself permission to see your passion as viable, to see your passion as something that is being supported. And I want to say this too, because the common bond between this nodal axis of Scorpio and Taurus is there's fear attached to it, because Taurus makes money because it's scared it's not going to have enough. And on some level, Scorpio can attach to other people's money or work through other people for their abundance because that feels safe. So now it's about self-creation. Because when I go into the angel's advice, there's the independent cat, and then there's the connection to spirit. And I think on some level, part of this for Libra is being independent. I know for me, I've always tried to create partnerships, but then the part of me that's Aries isn't always the greatest in a partnership, because I'm very clear-sighted very quickly. And then, other people feel trampled over. So what I realized was, as my Libra sun in my North Node, it was really more about learning how to be diplomatic, learning how to communicate my truth without alienating another person. So for Libra, yes, the timing is right for you to love and follow your own dreams, your own wants, your Taurian energy. What do you want in the way of your possessions? What do you want in the way of your comfort? What do you want for yourself in the way of how you nourish your body and what you put into your body, what you plant on your land? Okay, because now is a time to truly connect with spirit, to help continue to inspire you, so that when you realize that your independence is not isolating you from others, but rather you're no longer feeling disempowered through partnership, because spirit is saying that yes, the timing is right to love yourself, so we can lift the restriction of wherever you have been afraid to assert yourself. Now, these are the kind of things that when I talk about asserting yourself towards your dreams, it's always a 3-step process for me. The first is, what do I believe? Now, let's talk about Pluto squaring Libra forever and a day, right? So what do you really believe, Libra, about your skills? What do you really believe about your ability to create money and ease as you assert yourself? Because I think that that's an important aspect, because I think it actually makes you a better partner. So I think that this might be somewhere where you're getting liberated on some level. All right, let's go on to our Virgos. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums, but mostly moons, because we're talking about the moon's nodal structure. Okay, here we go. So Virgo, your North Node is in the 9th house, and the South Node is in the 3rd house, which I think is interesting because it feels a little bit like, Virgo is is very dependable. You want someone who's a Virgo working with you, for you, around you, because they're going to be someone who really does a great job for the most part. And now I feel like when I look at that South Node in the third house, I feel like it's asking you to be egoless about other people's opinions of your everyday life and your work. And then the ninth house, Taurus, is asking you if you're doing what you love. And it's not about quitting your job. It's just about an assessment, because the world itself is transforming and opportunities can happen that you wouldn't really realize. It's kind of like there's a part of Virgo that is really being required to be like the virgin and be a little bit naive as they trust the transits and know that their greatest intention is to be able to focus the mercurial mind on that bigger picture. Now we're talking that ninth house, right? The North Node, making it in the earth plane. All right, Virgo. Vanessa is asking, do you make your decisions based on faith or fear? Maya is putting us through some schooling and education. Chantal is talking about love. And Azure is saying your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Don't force it. I don't think this is intimate love. I think this is like somehow, it feels like it's giving me a break. This is a 1.5 year energy, by the way. So we're going to be doing this for a while. Vanessa's being joined by the letting go card. Maya's being joined by the serpent. Chantal's being joined by the fire fairy. That makes so much sense. And Azure's being joined by Merlin. So this is what I want to say about Virgo. Because you're the sign of slavery and employment and health in general, right? I feel like this opportunity is for you to step out into building. Look at the 44 here on the letting go card, because it's not about letting go. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits, to break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. So I believe that part of what this opportunity that's going to come is for you to start to really assess, am I making my decisions based on fear? Am I afraid if I let go of this particular situation in my third house, whatever I'm doing in my everyday work, will I really be able to do what I want to do? Hello, ninth house. Well, here, this is an opportunity for you to start to learn how to shed that skin, because the angels are saying that they will give you inspired actions. They will also infuse you with positivity and start to think about what you really love. Because again, as the world starts to shift again, we're going to see new job opportunities come up. And we know that Uranus is heading towards Gemini, and things are being developed right now. And there are things happening that we can't really see with the naked eye, both for our benefit and some of might disillusion us as we transit into a new dynamic. Because Azure is telling Virgo, your desired outcome will happen in the very near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. And then Merlin is really about justice and balance and about alchemy. And part of how we alchemize something is to know that we've done the focus work, the intention work. And now it's a little bit about not over driving the bus. It's a little bit like, when you learn how to ride a bike and you're first like, you're holding on like this. And then when you become really good, you see the guys riding down the highway, they're drinking water and they're sitting up. They're not even holding onto that front wheel. So I feel like this is what's going on for Virgo. As you stretch into that Taurus ninth house, you'll sort of be able to, in an earthly way and in a more practical way, imagine that what you want in the way of your possessions, your skills, your luxury, your coziness, your fun, your enjoyment, your pleasure, because that's everything that Venus rules and Taurus wants to have in this world. I also think it's going to give you an opportunity to rewrite your history. And I don't mean it in a way where you're pushing your history away like it was something bad, but rather your history will make sense to you. You'll be like, oh, I get it. I know why that happened, because that led to this, which led to this, which led me here. All right, let's go on to our Leos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I know I do preach a little bit. I don't mean to. I have Jupiter in Sagittarius, though, and I have Mercury in Scorpio. So I'm an impassioned speaker. And unfortunately, I'm never afraid to share my opinion, whether asked or not. All right, here we go. Leo, this is happening in your North Node. Taurus is going to be your 10th house, and Scorpio is going to be in your 4th house. Our first angel is Rochelle. The second is Archangel Raphael. The third is Shanti. And the final is Isaiah. Whoop. This is for Leo, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Rochelle is being joined by the eagle. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the restriction card. Shanti is being joined by the risk card. And Isaiah is being joined by the spider. You know, it's interesting for me because Leo rules children. I mean, Gemini does as well, but the inception of children in romance, and there's something going on with children right now. The recommendations for children are going to be re-examined, and I think that there's going to be a ripple effect for that Scorpio 4th house. So this is what I want to say for Leo, because you may want to roar. You may open up and you may just sort of be like, you know, there's nothing like a Leo parent. Okay, I just have to say they're the most fun and they're the most protective usually, because Rochelle is telling you to honor and follow the guidance of your heart. And the eagle is here about integrity. And I think you may have to be a little bit egoless about how you allow your home to be defined. And I say that because, and I don't mean egoless within the house, I mean it like there's a lot of recommendations that I'm not sure are great for everybody. So we have to think about it, because I think this has to do with physical health. Taurus, 10th house, what we put in our body. There's Archangel Raphael, and there's the restriction card. And if I didn't know better, I would say that Leo is not going to be too excited about some of the things that are being recommended and some of the mandates that are being recommended by the powers that be up there. And I feel as if Shanti is the angel of peace, and there's the risk card. And I really think this is about Leo standing in leadership and remembering that their being energy going into a situation is what helps co-create the outcome. Because, you know, people sometimes think that, you know, when there's a war on something, that the war is noble, but it's not. It's matching. It's a matching energy. So there's a way of purporting peace and illumination, because I think there's going to be a huge illumination in the house of home that is initially feels very Plutonian and scary. That's the way I'm going to put it. And, you know, it may be, and I'm going to say this lovingly, that some people have followed the rules and the regulations, and now they're a little nervous about what they've done, because they're finding out that the people that gave them all that advice weren't telling at least the whole truth, or the whole truth was not available at the time. So this is where I think it's going to be very important for Leo to kind of stand up and understand how strong they are, and to purport peace within themselves, because Isaiah is saying it's time to give birth to new ideas. And I think this is about the information I'm getting from the network, from those above me. It doesn't feel like it's relationship based. It feels like it's that 10th house North Node. And I'm going to tell you, I really believe that there's going to be a huge shift in the way that we produce our food. I've been watching this new show on the Magnolia Network called Lost Kitchen, and it's great. I really like it. I wish I could go to that restaurant, But everything is, they're literally showing how, they're going to the fishermen for the crab, and they're going to the ranchers for the beef, and they're going to the peach orchards for the peaches. This is really going to become something that's absolutely going to get recalibrated. We're gonna want to smell the beauty of our foods, and we're going to be more conscious. And I think Leo is going to take a very strong leadership role within that. And I don't necessarily mean you're going to be, storming, Capitol Hill to protest, as much as I think it'll come within the home itself. It'll come from practical application within your immediate family that then will ripple out into a bigger picture. Okay. Yeah. Well, I just listened to a speech from Candace Owens, and I was so impassioned before. I mean, I loved what I heard. I was so beyond it, because it's very much in alignment with how I think and what I want in the way of information. Okay, let's go on to our Cancers. This is in your North Node. Taurus is 11th house, and the South Node is in the 5th house. It's funny, as I said that, I felt like I was seeing that 5th house of children, and it was almost like the crab was crawling out from their little babies and starting to put themselves out into the network of their hopes and dreams. I used to grow lots of things on my patio when I lived in Santa Monica, and it feels like my patio here has become like a desert of death, because whatever I put out there dies. I just don't know why. I would like a little plot of land myself. I mean, every time I see, my Taurus moon goes crazy when I see gardens and growing and anything to do with nature. All right, here we go. Cancer. Our first angel is Teresa. The second is Celeste. The third is Desiree. And the final is Isabella. Whoop. So Teresa, to me, is always taking care of other people, and not just taking care of them physically, but worrying about what they think, what they feel, and letting me determine my happiness in relation to that. Well, if that isn't a bit of a Cancerian thing, I don't know what is, because you're the nurturer, right? So Teresa is being joined by the cow. Okay, I'm telling you right now, this access is crazy. We're getting so much to do with physical health and food in all the readings. So I really feel, I'm just got chills crazy. I got Celeste and the frog. I got Desiree and the king. And then I got Isabella and the fear card. Okay, so for my Cancers, I really think that the cow is representing nourishment. It is representing what I put in my body, and I'm starting to discern about what is being the information that's been given to me. When my dad was very much let the women in his life kind of run the show. And when I look at him, his chart, at least what I can figure out about his chart, his moon is in Cancer. His last wife that he was married to for over 40 years was a Cancer, and she really nurtured him in a motherly energy. So he did whatever she told him to do. I'm saying this because I think that Cancers are going to stop listening, because you could be like, the doctor said this, the doctor said that. Lipitor ate my dad's stomach out. I mean, a terrible adverse reaction to it. So I think what's going to happen with Cancers, they're going to start to be more bullish, I hate to say it like that, about what other people think. North Node in the 11th house of Taurus. I feel as if you're going to start to be like, I'm not so sure that works for me, because Celeste represents a shift in the way I'm thinking, and there's the cleanup of emotional baggage. And I think it's going to come through a series of revelations. I really do. When I look at that 5th house, because it's going to be about kids. I'm really focusing in on kids. I'm not thinking about romance. I'm not thinking about anything other than the rules and the regulations that are getting to younger and younger and younger. And they're marketing these things in ways that are a little bit shameful. I mean, like shaming the public if they don't do what they're being told, because there's the king representing justice and balance. And there's Desiree saying conditions aren't favorable. Things are going to be exposed. We know that. We know that Scorpio is going to bring out what has been hidden. And in the final position is the yes card, because now is a time to recognize when fear is being shoved in our face and we're being manipulated through fear. So I think Cancer, of all the signs, might be the most vulnerable to the 10th house, right? In general, because it's what opposes you. It's what appears to be the authority. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to end up having a more discerning eye, because you're going to be, I think that 5th house South Node in Scorpio is going to make you, it's going to rise up, something's going to rise up inside of you. And I think it's probably going to be your intuitions. And I feel like a bit of, I feel like the crab might be starting to like take their claws and go, I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think it's a good idea. Hope that made sense. Let's go on to our Geminis. This is going to be in your 12th and 6th house access. I think this is super important because the North Node is your 12th house. And I think this is not about hospitals. I'm not going to say that. I don't think it's about ashrams. I think it's about the dreams you dream when you're alone in your room. I think of the 12th house when I was a little girl, before my dad killed my singing dreams. My hairbrush and my mirror were, my best friends. And I put on my record player and put on the Carpenters, and I'd sing my little brains out. So when I look at Gemini North Node in Taurus, I feel like you're hiding your talents. You're hiding your real wants and desires, your Venusian things you do in your single self when you're alone. And then I go to the South Node in the 6th house, and I feel like maybe it's time to actually let your work dynamic sort of be egoless, let it sort of release the toxins and then stretch towards what it is that you do in your single self in that bedroom with your brush and your record player. I hope that made sense. It makes perfect sense to me. First angel is Chantal, love, romance, interacting with others. Adriana, leading you to your answer to your dreams. Archangel Raphael, again, physical healing. And Rosetta. I think this is about reliving a childlike innocence and excitement about the things that you only let yourself bemuse when you're alone. That's how I want to put it. And I'm not telling you to get your hairbrush and go sing in the yard. I'm just saying that I think it's time to maybe put the things you love a little bit more on the forefront. And if indeed a relationship is what you want, because Chantal will talk of relationships, it might be time to bring that idea out of the 12th house, out of that, bedroom where it's hidden in your diary, and start to open it up and bring it into the idea of the 6th house and put a little spit and polish on it. All right, Chantal is being joined by the restriction card. Adriana is being joined by the burden card. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the spider. And Rosetta is being joined by the mystery card. Well, this is interesting. I'm going to pull a clarification card on that mystery card. And it's the horse. As I pulled the second cards, I started to think about, I know a Gemini woman who's going through egg retrieval right now. And I want to offer this because with being a Gemini, sometimes, it's a little bit challenging because your brain sort of goes back and forth between I can and I can't, I have and I haven't, I will and I won't. And I feel like that's going on a little bit when it comes to the things that Gemini loves. And now I go to the 12th house and the 6th house, and I feel like, am I enslaved to my job? Am I enslaved to whatever's hidden underneath and what I can't have? And I feel like part of it is you being able to actually believe that you are being led, that there's some wisdom behind all of this. Because when I look at it, I guess I want to put it this way. I feel like for the next year and a half for Gemini, as you continue to ask yourself the deeper questions that Pluto requires, am I in my 6th house activities where I'm putting my work dynamic? I know the health thing and Archangel Raphael is here, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like work. It feels like work is eroding me. It feels like work is become something more of the Gemini, kind of the lower energy with the monkey mind, and it feels like hamster wheelish. And maybe it's time for me to start to really think, have I given myself permission to even believe I can do something I love and make money at it? Because I think that the spirit's being burdened trying to take you there. And I feel like part of it is realizing that your healing comes through seeing things from a much bigger perception, meaning a bigger network. So many people can make money on Etsy. People are, I watch a woman on TikTok with her daughter, and she was talking about being totally broke and like literally going to jail because she couldn't pay a parking ticket, and thanking God for social media because now she's buying her daughter a little Louis Vuitton bag. And I'm thinking to myself, these are the opportunities that your sign, Gemini, is bringing forth when Uranus moves into Taurus. So there's going to have to be a bit of a surrender and going back to your childlike innocence and making choices to go in a new direction. And that direction is taking small baby steps into the 12th house of your bedroom and practicing those things that you love, those things that you think are only reserved for I almost feel like it's time ignored. The 12th house is what's behind the first house. So I want to offer that for you, because as you spend even the smallest bit of time starting to do things you love, I think the universe will open up opportunities for you to step through those in a bigger way. And then it may be a slight burden for Gemini to actually recognize that, oh, well, maybe I have to not be afraid of what I have in the way of work, to let that be egoless and sort of release that so I can step into something that will be more fruitful for me. Okay, let's go on to our Taurus. This is very significant. North Node in your first house. Oh my gosh. That speaks volumes to me. You know what you know. I like that saying. But you don't know what you don't know. Hi, Josh. Hi, everybody. Hi, Jules. I said hi to Stephen already. Did I say hi to Brandon? Hi, Brandon. Okay. I am that I am. I think that's how they say that. I'm a work in progress, a constant work in progress. And as this Taurus, having the North Node in the first house of Taurus is going to be very, very interesting because my moon is there. And my moon has been hovering around Uranus, which rules the internet. I think I've made some changes. All right, here we go. Taurus. Our first angel is Akasha, the teacher. The second is Adriana. The third is Sonia. And the final is Maya. Wow, that's a lot of teaching. You know what I love about Taurus? Because not just Taurus, but the fixed signs. There's this little definition with fixed. I'm never going to move. I'm always going to think the same way. But what I think it is I think that sometimes, especially with Taurus, it's fixed until it has rammed its little bull head into the wall so many times. It's like, oh, maybe it's time to move. And then it becomes fixed in that energy. I hope that makes sense. Meaning, because I think that what's going to happen is it being with the North Node in the first house and the South Node in the seventh house, I feel as if this isn't necessarily about partnership with an intimate partner, but it may be how you have viewed partnerships, and maybe you viewed them inadvertently by disempowering yourself within the partnership, and now you allowing the Venusian part of you to come through and start to play with those skills. Because the thing about this lost kitchen, she was just a person that was trying to find her happiness, and she left her home in Maine only to come back and realize that everything, she's like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She loved to cook, but because she lived in a small town, she thought she had to go seek her happiness. And then she ended up coming back and opening this incredible restaurant. And she was never a trained chef. She never went to culinary school. So there has to be a part of you that starts to trust your skills beyond what you perceive others will think of your skills. Okay, Akasha is the teacher, and then there's the love card. Adriana is being joined by the restriction card again. Sonia's being joined by the movement card. And Maya is being joined by the forgiveness card. The first thing I thought when I looked at this is Taurus rules history. And when I saw Adriana, I feel as if Taurus is going to be constantly asked for the next year and a half minimum. Are you doing what you love? Is this what you love? Is this really your deepest truth? Is this how you want to express yourself? Because, and if indeed you're looking for a relationship, I think it's about asking yourself what the deeper motivations of that relationship are. Because if they're Scorpion and I need somebody to help take care of me, or I need somebody else's money, or there's something out of balance, I don't know if it'll happen. Because here's Adriana leading you to the answers to your prayers. But part of it comes through the pause of almost a Saturnian pause of looking at what my motivations are, because the movement will come from your deeper truth and how much you connect to spirit about what it is you want. One of the reasons that I'm started here is because I started to really see a pattern and the nodal structure, and looking at doing my research and realizing that I moved to North Carolina because I was afraid I couldn't be a spiritual teacher on my own. Akasha is the spiritual teacher. This is my moon we're talking about, because here is the angel of schooling and education, and there's the reconciliation. So I want to offer it this way, because I feel as if Taurus, especially moon, but rising moon, sun, and stelliums, as you give life to the idea that whatever you've been through that may have felt distasteful is part of the journey of love. And as you allow spirit to bring you into these moments of realization that the restriction led to an epiphany, to a scorpionic moment of seeing the deeper truth. And now the movement can actually come in. And then you'll understand not only what you were learning, which is that you're a powerful creator, and that your history isn't meant to tank you, but more a point of reference. Do I want to repeat this? Do I want to repeat this? Oh, I've been here before, and now I can use this as a bit of a reconciliation. Meaning I understand why I'm walking through this. This epiphany of being able to see myself 19 years ago and the decisions I made that seemed like I was going on in some way to some inspired new beginning. It really was a faux new beginning, because it was all based on something I already knew. The woman I was moving to start this spiritual bookstore had 2 small children under the age of 5. She lived in the Bible Belt, and she was much more susceptible to the environment than I was living in California. So when I got there and everything stalled, nothing moved, I started working for Dish Network. I didn't move across the country to work for Dish Network. So this is what I kept telling myself some things that weren't quite true. I was taking actions based on something, on fear. So that's where I'm going with this for my Tauruses. I think when you really look at where you're basing your partnerships and relationships, and then you're a little braver about what you have to offer and your own personal value within that, you're going to feel really great about moving into the next access, where Aries gets to have you move your story forward. And you start to see that Libra access coming in, where you start to feel the peace and the balance of your own adjustment. Okay, on to Aries. Here we go. I didn't know any of the nodal structure that was going on. Man, I'm so glad in some ways I didn't know until now, because truly my birth chart is a little scary. I'm not scary when you look at the chart, but when you look at Pluto and all the transits, I honestly, I mean, if I would have known, I would have spent my whole life thinking I was going to die. All right, here we go. Aries, this is Taurus is your 2nd house. And as you know, Scorpio is your 8th house. So let's see how that's going to play out. Aries rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I feel like there's a potential for a full transformation in how you make your money and how you treat your body. Our first angel is Aurora. The 2nd is Ariel. The 3rd is Bethany, self-care. And there's Teresa. Okay, here we go. All right, Aries, you're being joined by Aurora. I'm sorry. Aurora's being joined by the disruption card. Ariel's being joined by the forgiveness card. Bethany's being joined by the B card. And Teresa's being joined by the water fairy. Okay, so this is the first thing I want to say about this. As we walk through this axis, Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, I really feel like this is the transformation of Mars, going from the angry planet that's always aggressive, always assertive, always disrupting things, into the pioneer, the courage. I kind of vacillate sometimes in the tarot between the Fool representing Mars and the Tower, because they both have similar energies and they're kind of exchangeable. And I feel like when I look at the disruption card and I see Aurora saying, you're flying high right now, don't descend, because you will soon inspire others with your example. It's your willingness to walk into a disruption, but not as the warrior, more the spiritual warrior, where you're understanding what you're walking through has been spiritually, divinely guided for you to reconcile how important it is for Aries to take care of themselves and to be aware of their being energy. Because in the final position is Aries' opportunity to actually start to really connect with their intuitive body, and in a way that makes me feel like it's different from the rest of the crowd. So let me offer this. When I look at the idea of the South Node transiting Scorpio, and for me personally, it's going to hit my Mercury, my power fortune, my Neptune. Yeah, I'm of a certain age now. Is this going to suddenly make me die? Am I going to lose all of my fire, my I guess it's the Aryan passion for life a little bit. And at the same time, I think, no, this is where I master it. This is the opportunity. I've now been through my second Saturn return. I've walked through this nodal structure before. So now I know that disruption is oftentimes the doorway to my dreams. And I know that oftentimes, in order for me to truly understand how a situation is reconciled, it's coming from a spiritual place. And now my job as an Aries is to be only concerned with my being energy. And that is, what do I believe at a Scorpion level? What do I believe about money at a Scorpion level? Because again, here we have this access. It's all about money, the skills, the money I make as I assert myself, second house Taurus, and the money that's bestowed to me because somebody died or because I invested well. So I really feel like this is a little bit more about stepping away from the crowd and trusting this intuitive part of you. This is where the water and the fire don't have to make steam necessarily, but maybe that steam actually helps the engine move forward. So I think that this year for the Aries energy, you're very much going to want to purport your skills, your talents, your ideas, your passions forward. And I think that the part of the South Node is to be egoless about other people's responses to them. You may want that immediate gratification or that immediate yes, yes. And I think maybe it's not about that. It's about actually calming it down and saying, you know what, if I just step out, you'll figure it out. You'll see. It's about having faith a little bit in the outside world versus not. Because if you add the idea that Mars co-rules Scorpio, it could get into this energy where I'm going to try to overpower you for your own good. Don't do that. It's the opposite. I feel like this is about mastering your skills as a Martian ruled person and to learn how Excalibur is the sword of truth, not the sword of war. And only the purest knight could pull Excalibur out of the stone. Okay. That's it for this week, you guys. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited to see you all. We're going to continue here on my channel. I will be here every Sunday morning, right as rain, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Keep your fingers crossed. Lucky's going to get out of that cone soon because he's still in the cone. We went from his little bad rash to now the paw thing. So we're working on that. But thank you all. Sending lots of love to you. Please like, please subscribe, please share, please comment. And if you'd like to book a private reading with me, I am available and my information is below in the description. I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend, everybody, or a great week. Bye.